Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Hesse Bros Pod. We are on to week 5 of the NFL season. Luke, already a quarter of the way through the regular season. It is just flying by. Wow, another great week of football.
September's in the past now, and we're ready to get into some more big time football. This is when the real football starts here in October. So I can't wait to see it. And hey, we already had a pretty interesting month. How'd you feel about your Kansas City Chiefs game last week, Brent? I know you said you were there.
Oh, it was phenomenal. Yep, got to be at Arrowhead for the first time this season. And let me tell you, Arrowhead was fired up. The crowd was getting into it from the start. Too early delay game penalties on Lamar, got him off rhythm. Of course, the interception, Leo Chanel coming down that pick, incredible pick, first interception of his career, first turnover by Lamar this season. And after the Chiefs had to settle for a couple field goals early, that's been a problem in the red zone. Have to admit that. After that, though, they just absolutely started cooking left and right. Got everybody involved. It was so good to see Xavier Worthy back. I mean, that guy is incredible. And maybe it's not so much just how incredible he is, but just that Mahomes needs one like plus weapon. Everybody else is either an aging Kelsey or a cast off from another team or a seventh round running back that suffered an injury and doesn't look as good as he used to look as a seventh round running back. Like that is their whole entire weapons, except for Xavier Worthy, who is actually a viable NFL weapon. And you get him on the field, it just opens up it for everybody. He leads the team in receiving, he leads the team in rushing, but then all the other guys, all his other wide receiver buddies, are able to cash in for touchdowns because of it. Tyquan Thornton, his third straight touchdown. Juju dancing in the end zone. We even get Hollywood Brown involved late, and the Chiefs look great. Now, yes, the Ravens were decimated on injuries, but a lot of those they got some injuries late in the second quarter, but the Chiefs had already established that they were winning that game by that point. And then of course it sucks when Roquan and Marlon Humphrey go down, then you lose another player really late in the game. The Ravens offense not great, but the Lions put up points against them, the Bills put up points against them. The Chiefs put up just as much and actually put up more in the first half whenever the Ravens had the same players they had against the Lions the week before. So, yes, I'm impressed by the offense. Am I completely sold because it was the Ravens defense, who I truly think is one of the worst defenses in the league? No. That's why I said I was confident the Chiefs were going to win, because I did not think the Ravens defense was going to be able to hold up, and that was correct. So I was very encouraged by what I saw with the Chiefs offense, but the Chiefs defense, that's where it really happened. Nobody slowed down that offense. Lamar, I mean, he played 3 quarters and he did not have anything going. The Lions didn't slow him down. The Bills certainly didn't slow him down, but Kansas City absolutely did. That defense has looked better and better each week after having a very slow start in Brazil against Justin Herbert. So, yes, I've got confidence in the Chiefs. I never wavered from having confidence in the Chiefs, but it was a great day at Arrowhead. It was buzzing and it was absolutely phenomenal.
They look like they're right back to it. And that Leo Chanel interception, I think, is really what turned the tides. The Ravens offense looked pretty solid up to that point. They were moving the ball decently well. After that, they couldn't really get anything going. Huge win for the Chiefs. Love to see it for them. And for the Detroit Lions, just an easy W against the Browns. We didn't even need to talk about it last week because we knew that was going to be a Lions victory. All three phases absolutely dominated in that one. We got punt return for a touchdown, offense easily getting in. Once we get in the red zone, getting those touchdowns, couple good field goals. But that defense, man, absolutely stepped up. Took Joe Flacco's job away from him. He's not starting anymore after seeing that Detroit Lions defense. Had 3 turnovers, and yeah, Lions are in a great spot right now. I'm not really hearing too many more conversations about those offensive and defensive coordinators. They're looking pretty good now.
Yeah, the Amon Ra connection with Jared Goff, it's great. We already talked about it. I think it's currently the number one connection in the league, although Puka and Stafford are having something to say about it. They look amazing too. But about the Lions, absolutely. Great job by Detroit. You expected Cleveland. They've been able to slow down a lot of good offenses so far this year. And Detroit, once they got going, they were going quickly. And that second quarter, they just kind of blitzed Cleveland. Looks like both Kansas City and Detroit are able to send backup quarterbacks in for next week now, as it's going to be the Cooper Rush show and the Dylan Gabriel show for the Chiefs and Lions opponents from last week. Absolutely. Chiefs and Lions, they're on a collision course. They play each other not this week, but in week 6. And I'm already looking forward to that one because those two definitely are in the small Super Bowl bubble.
Absolutely. I can't wait for that one. Both teams got a game they got to clean up this weekend. Won't be super easy, maybe for one of them, but they got to clean that up. And then, yep, meeting right there in Arrowhead where the Lions already took them down last time they met. So that'll be a great matchup. What are some of your other reactions from the past week?
Well, the other game that I want to talk about is I think what could have been not just the game of the week, but could have been the game of this decade. Maybe the best regular season game since Chiefs Rams back in 2018, except it's not because it ended in a tie, and that was the Packers Cowboys game. It had all the makings. Micah Parsons coming back to Dallas, Jerry Jones up there, both quarterbacks in the second half just going shot for shot with each other, Jordan Love and Dak Prescott. But ultimately, the game ends 40 to 40, and I'm left thinking after that game now, what's going on with Green Bay?
I feel like what we saw, Jordan Love definitely had a solid second half, but at the end of the game there, I mean, he almost lost the team the game. It
Yeah.
came down to that last second. That ball barely hits the ground, or else they would have lost. But yeah, definitely their defense is a little shaky going up against Dak Prescott without CD Lamb, and he absolutely torches them the entire second half. I don't know what's going on over there in Green Bay. I mean, it's not like they have injuries. Maybe they were so overconfident that they could beat the Cowboys, and Cowboys really brought it to them. You got to give credit to that offense, I feel like.
Is it fair to ask if maybe the Packers are a little bit overrated? They play week 1 at home against a team we don't talk about anymore. I don't think we need to anymore. But week 1, there were some personnel changes with Detroit, and they've looked a lot like a different team since week 1. Then week 2, they play a Washington team that I still don't know if it's really any good or not. I mean, they were my pick, but they haven't proven that they're really any good. Then week 3, they lose to the Browns, who I don't think anyone thinks highly of. And now week 4, they lose to the Cowboys, who has a good offense, but a very bad defense, and they're not able to get the win there. Is there maybe some people that overrated the Packers?
I think they were definitely overrated before because beating the Lions week one blowout fashion. I mean, that's gonna send shockwaves through the league. But I don't think they're too overrated. They just have a young core. I feel like their secondary is pretty young, young wide receivers. So it's hard to get everyone on the same page every single week, like you would see for a college team. Like you're gonna not bring your best stuff every week whenever you don't have those veterans. So I think, they have a pretty high ceiling, but also they can have some dud weeks in there without having the experience of a lot of other teams in the NFL.
All right, fair enough. We'll move on to one of the reactions I had during this week 4 slate, and that was in the Meadowlands, where I thought it was just easy to get road wins, and if you didn't win by at least 20 points, it was not even an impressive win. Meanwhile, Jackson Dart is darting into the end zone, and Cam Scadaboo is still surfing all the way to the end zone. Wow, the New York Giants defeating the Chargers. That's a big reaction for me. What was your takeaway in that game?
Absolutely. I feel like Jackson Dart just completely energized that entire team. Coming in there, just getting the crowd fired up, running like his life depended on it, running through people on that one. I think it was a fourth or third down. Was nothing in the inside, wraps around, gets the first down, huge first down for the team, ends up leading them to the win. And I think it really energized that defense. We've known that the Giants have good defensive personnel. That's why I picked them to make the playoffs. Believe it or not, I had that. But yeah, I feel like because their defensive personnel is pretty good. They have solid weapons. Obviously, it's sad that Malik Neighbors went down, but they still have decent enough weapons, hopefully, to help out Dart enough. And yeah, he really energized that whole team and just absolutely took it to the Chargers. Did not want to drop his first game.
Yeah, it was brutal injury. Neighbors, he's been my leader, but that's a tough one for me. But great to see the Giants get the victory because Chargers, they're coming right on back to the pack in the AFC West, just like I kind of expected. I didn't expect it to be, though, that game against the Giants. So very great reaction between them and the Kansas City Chiefs winning. It was a very nice back-to-back games there, middle of Sunday.
Absolutely. And another game that was very well anticipated was that Rams versus Colts game. And we were talking about, are the Colts legit? I think after watching that game they are. Without Adonai Mitchell dropping that ball, it would have been most likely a Colts victory. Stafford's stats were really good. Their defense, the stats might not look great, but that was on a deep ball to Atwell late in the game. They had one blown coverage. Obviously, you can't have that, but that's a mistake I feel like they can work on. And their defensive line looked absolutely great in that game. Stafford was under fire and he really couldn't do much for the majority of the game. They got two late touchdowns to win that when the Rams did. So I liked what I was seeing from the Colts. Danny Dimes did make mistakes too, but it all seemed like things that the Colts can fix pretty easily. And I think that they're ready to make a little run, maybe contend with the AFC, especially with some openings coming. The Chargers not looking as good, and the Ravens obviously falling off. They could make a little run.
There are some openings in the AFC, and I think the Colts are capable of taking them. I said if the Colts won, I'd be impressed and believe they're legit. They came about as close as they could. So, yeah, honestly, they showed me more in that loss than they had in any of the three victories prior. So the Colts are definitely skyrocketing up in terms of how I view them. I still think they're a notch below the top contenders, but they are definitely a team that could make some noise. And wow, I mean, it's got to be heartbreaking to be that close to getting to 4-0. Adonai Mitchell, he made a great play too. It was not an easy catch, then spinning away from the defenders, tight roping the sidelines. Just lost it all at the end, and got to be a little devastating, a little heartbreaking for the Colts fans there because they are maybe just tighter grasp away from being 4-0.
Hey, let's give him some props though. If he could have pulled off that nice little showboat move at the end, that would have been pretty sick. But unfortunately, it fell right out of his hands.
Tough, tough, tough. Well, something else that slipped right out of their hands were the Buccaneers' comeback chances whenever it looked like they might climb all the way back. The Eagles looked like the superstar juggernaut team in the first half, blocking punts for touchdowns, racing out to a massive lead. Then in the second half, did not complete a single pass. They are just such a bizarre team. I said it last week. They look like what the Chiefs looked like last year at this time, just somehow finding ways to win. And the Eagles are doing even crazier wins. Like the Chiefs waited till like week 13 for their blocked field goal to win. And I don't think they ever had a game where they didn't complete a pass in the second half and won. The Eagles, if you talk about black magic, they are doing it somehow right now. They're near the bottom in all offensive stats. They're like 30th in yards per game, and they're giving up like the their defense is not in the top half in terms of yards per game against. They're getting outgained, and somehow they still find ways to win against good teams. Is it black magic? Is there an explanation for what the Eagles have done through 4 weeks?
Who knows? I mean, they're playing good teams too that they're beating the Bucs, Chiefs. I mean, the Rams. It's honestly kind of
Even the
impressive that
Cowboys look better than
yeah,
I thought they would.
exactly. I mean, these are good wins to get. Yeah, it doesn't make sense why they're winning. And that's why I feel like you got to keep going against them. I mean, I guess you go with them until they lose, but it just looks like exactly what happened to the Chiefs. But also, it looks like what they were doing 2 years ago whenever they completely fell apart. And so that's where I'm like, we've seen this a little bit from the Eagles. They went 11 weeks undefeated, I think, that year,
Hmm.
something like that.
Yep.
So to to see it happening again, I'm like, am I really that worried about the Eagles? If they're letting this happen, like we've seen this play out before, you can't sustain that for a whole season. They're going to need to figure something out, especially with their star receiver sending mean tweets after, or little cryptic tweets after winning 20 straight games. It's
So
not something you see every day.
are they on like give it time, they'll figure it out. They're still winning, or are they on this doesn't look right and it might all collapse? Which side of this are we on?
I think there's a decent chance it collapses. I don't know who's going to be able to pick up the slack in their division. I mean, they're going to be in the playoffs, most likely still win that division, but we're going to just have to, it's more of a wait and see, I feel like, because it's going to come down to the playoffs for them. You know, they're going to be in it. So it's more of a wait and see if they can get it right. But I'm very skeptical that they're going to be able to completely fix this passing game. and their secondary.
I think that I don't get how the offense can't figure it out. They've got all the same people that just won the Super Bowl. And yeah, their passing game wasn't dynamic last year, but at times it was. Obviously, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith's one of the best wide receiver combos in the league. I know that Jalen Hurts gets his grief, but I still think he's a top 10 quarterback. He can make throws down the field. He just hasn't. And Saquon Barkley is a running back. So I don't understand how this offense isn't going to figure it out. It's just so bizarre that they've had two halves of football in which they've combined for negative yards in the Rams game first half and now the Bucs game second half. It just is shocking to me, but they're still finding ways to win, and that counts for a lot.
Yeah, I think one of the keys too is Saquon is not getting going so far this year. That's what they absolutely relied on for him last year, getting openings and absolutely taking it to the house. It's tough for a running back of his age, I feel like, to be able to have as many carries and as much yards, as much wear and tear as he did last year, have a full offseason, and be right back to where he was at the end of last year. I feel like that's a lot to ask of him, even as a great player. So maybe he'll be able to get back to that later in the season, but we have not seen that at all yet this season.
Well, you've got one more reaction, Luke, and I think it's about a running back that you are Mike coming around on now.
Ashton Genty, those three touchdowns, breaking tackles. I mean, that is a strong dude in that Raiders game. I mean, the Bears' rush defense is terrible. I get that. Maybe they don't know how to tackle anybody. Maybe they couldn't tackle me, but I know for sure they cannot tackle Ashton Genty. And I think he's here now. He started standing up in that Jameer Gibbs stance, as I like to call it. Everyone calls it the Ashton Genty. That's not right. But yeah, no, he knows what he's doing out there. He's a shifty back, and I think as long as the offensive line can be somewhat competent or just find a way to give him the ball anywhere in space, it's going to be tough to be able to bring him down. And I think he can make a little run at Offensive Rookie of the Year. I don't know if Emeka Ibuka has something to say about that, but Genty's looking really good right now.
Yeah, Genty was the favorite to start the season. In 3 weeks, he can make that up in no time. Genty with three touchdowns. I think a big storyline there is just the running back position as a whole. And yes, it is such a demanding position. Going back to exactly what you talked about with Saquon, he had such a workload last year, going for 2,000 yards, having over 300 carries. That does take a toll. I think we're seeing a little bit with Derrick Henry too. He had a great week one and has been quiet since then. And you're seeing the young guys. Jameer Gibbs looks like so dynamic, looks like the best running back in the NFL. And then I'll watch a Bijan Robinson play, and he looks like the best running back in the NFL. Genty coming up. So that position is just so hard that the fresh guys, the young guys, they just look super dynamic. And I mean, that's not taking anything away from Saquon or of course Derrick Henry and like Jonathan Taylor's had an amazing year. He's more of an experienced guy. But those young guys, they are very much impressing, and Genty's leading the way. Another rookie, Omarion Hampton, had a massive game, over 100 yards and a touchdown as well.
Yep. You love to see it. And Woody Marks, too. We called that out last week, and he's getting fired up. Love to
Yeah.
see the young guys getting involved. But, Brent, what was the most surprising thing you saw last week?
The most surprising thing to me was the point spread with the largest spread this week was the largest we've seen all season. And it was the Bills by 2.5 touchdowns, basically 17 points. And for a lot of that game, it was a one possession game. It wasn't until the fourth quarter the Bills ended up winning by two scores, but they still didn't cover. And they look like they might be showing just a few holes. Now, I wouldn't want that for any reason, but the Bills, let's look at who they played. They played the Ravens, who are 1-3. They have played the Jets, who are 0-4. The Dolphins, who are 1-3, and they had to beat the Jets. One of those teams had to win unless they went full Packers Steelers mode or Packers Cowboys mode. And then the Saints, who are 0-4. So they're they've played teams with a combined record of 2-14, and those two wins are against the Jets and the Browns. So they have not played a good schedule by any means. And it's the second straight week where it was a close game in the fourth quarter. They were at home against the Dolphins. It was close. They're home against the Saints. It's close. Their run defense is really concerning. Had a little bit more eyes on that game than I even wanted to because I had the Bills in a survivor league. And I was like, they can't even stop the run. and their offense did not, it just wasn't as fluid as you would want to see if you are locking that game up. So I think the Bills, while they're 4-0 and they deserve credit for that, they have not really answered a question mark since week one, in which they had to use every last miracle in the book to survive that one. Maybe there's some holes there with Buffalo that people are overlooking.
Yeah, it's just tough to know right now without going up against a really strong opponent, especially his first 3 weeks. I feel like the Ravens week one, that's a good test. But the way their defense is looking, maybe they haven't really played any defense worth anything so far. And so it's tough to see exactly how good James Cook is and the rest of that offense. I like what you're thinking there, Brent. We'll just have to see with the Bills games coming up.
What would surprise you in week four?
Well, over there in Dublin, Aaron Rodgers seemed to really like that Guinness, and the Steelers now, he definitely was celebrating because the Steelers now feel like they have a complete stronghold over their division. It looks like they can completely just run away with it, especially if Lamar is out for a couple weeks and the Ravens lose one or two of their next two games. I mean, the Steelers look like they're in prime position to get that winning record again, and they're playing really well, honestly. I thought coming into the year, they had what it takes. They started off a little shaky, but Steelers or Rodgers is starting to get that connection with DK Metcalf. The running game is starting to get going. I mean, they made Kenneth Gainwell look good running the ball. So if they can do that, I feel like once they get Warren back in there, they can really make some things happen. And the defense is starting to step up. It was against Carson Wentz, but they looked pretty dominant against a Vikings team that you know, they might not be the best, but they at least somewhat know what they're doing, especially a good coach like Kevin O'Connell. I was really impressed with the Steelers. And now with the Bengals basically out of the way, Browns are trash. I mean, they got this absolutely on lock, the AFC North.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I was pulling this up. I didn't know the exact number, but the Ravens to win the division are still minus money. The Ravens are minus 135 currently, and Pittsburgh is plus 150. So Vegas does not agree with you whatsoever. Where, yeah, the Steelers are 2 games ahead. Lamar, they're calling him day to day, but it seems like reports say he's probably going to miss 2 weeks. Now, their bye is in 3 weeks. So if he misses this week against the Texans, then they got the Rams, then the bye, then they'll play Chicago. So let's say he misses those 2 games and they'll be underdogs in both. The line started as Baltimore favored, then reports saying Lamar is most likely not going to play, flips to the Texans favored. They certainly wouldn't be favored against the Rams without Lamar. If they're 1-5, though, the thing is, I still think they win the division. I'm just not buying the Steelers. The Steelers, yes, they did play well against the Vikings, and that did surprise me a little bit. I had the Vikings in that one, but the Patriots game, they still should have lost that one. They got outplayed by the Seahawks pretty handily at home, and then the Jets are one of the worst teams in the league, and they needed a game-winning stop against them. I still think the Steelers are about as average as they come in the league. They're a great benchmark, right in the middle of the pack. Baltimore can do it. They can, even if they're 1-5. Now they need to get those defensive guys back too. If Marlon Humphrey and Roquan Smith and Matt is obviously on IR out for the season, but if they get those guys back, I think they can get to 10-7 and 10-7. If you beat the Steelers both times and you get that tiebreaker, I think they can do it. So Steelers to me, they still have a lot to prove before they just get the division by default. Now, if Lamar misses more than 2 games, maybe they just do default into division winner. That is possible, but as of now, I'm not sold on that one.
I mean, Rodgers had two bad games and two games where he looked, very good, getting the ball out quick, getting it to his receivers, and they do have enough playmakers on that team to get it done. But yeah, we'll definitely see how that one plays
You
out.
you vouch for the plus 150 for the Steelers though? You like that?
Oh yeah, I love it. Throw it in. I mean, Ravens will probably make the playoffs because the AFC just is not that deep. So they can probably make it with, 9 wins. But I can see the Steelers getting to that 10-11 mark this year, playing against the Browns twice and the Bengals twice. They can definitely get up there.
Let's start talking some week 5 matchups. There's a lot of good ones. And we will start with the Philadelphia Eagles and this 4-0 team. that we still are having a lot of questions about trying to figure them out, Luke. So it's Denver on the road at Philadelphia. Philadelphia is at home. The Broncos, they're coming off that big win against the Bengals, back to 2-2 now. What is more likely? The Eagles offense gets back on track or they suffer their first loss of the season at home.
Well, I would say both of these are probably unlikely because the Denver Broncos defense is pretty solid, so I doubt the Eagles offense will be able to do too much. The Eagles will probably find a way to win, but I think the Broncos are really going to put it to them in this one. I like that -3.5 or the +3.5 for the Broncos side. Bo Nix is starting to get it together, and they have enough weapons on that team as far as Cortland Sutton, Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims deep, and then they're getting the rookie running back R.J. Harvey going, like we were talking about. They got some juice over there. I think they're starting to figure out in Denver. This is definitely a game I'm looking forward to.
So if you had to pick, that's why it's a hard question. If you had to pick, you think it's more likely the Eagles lose?
Yeah, definitely.
Then
I'd
their
say
offense
lose.
looks good.
No, yeah, their offense is not going to look good in this one. I can almost guarantee that. Maybe now that AJ Brown said something, they'll start throwing the ball. But even with that, I don't think this Broncos defense is the time to start getting it going.
And I agree with that. And I heard a really good point. Like, did AJ Brown really need to make it a point? Hey, maybe you should try to throw me the ball. That could help the offense. Like, don't you think they know that? Huh? Because it's one thing if like the offense was doing good and Saquon was running for 100 yards and Devontae Smith was catching touchdowns and the offense was working. It just wasn't involving AJ. The offense is not working. I think they know, okay, maybe one of the things to do, let's try to get it to this superstar wide receiver we have. It's hard for me because I agree with you. I think the Eagles will win this game. And so just by default, I think it's a better chance their offense looks good. And I do agree that the Broncos have a great defense. But the I mean, Indiana Jones was cooking in the second half against these guys. And it'd just be on brand for the Eagles to be like, okay, our best offensive, most consistent offensive game of the season, even against the Cowboys. They were great in one half offensively and awful in the second half where they just punted the ball and held on. And then now the Cowboys, it's clear, we all thought at the time, it's clear they're a bottom three defense in the league. They couldn't even put together a full game against them. Against the Chiefs, it was about the same thing where they just kind of ho-hum their way to a victory, basically because they got a massive turnover that was a 14-point swing. And then in each of the last two games, it's been drastic. Play good for half, play terrible for the other half. It would just be on brand for this game, which nobody thinks it will be, for the one the offense looks good. And maybe they still end up winning by a field goal, but it's 27-24 or something. I don't know. I think the Eagles end up winning by a touchdown though. They're at home. I just feel like they have to get on track. I don't know how I'm becoming the Eagles guy, but I just feel like they're gonna have to do it. It just does not make sense for them not to.
Give me the Broncos in this one. Honestly, now that you're talking about it, I kind of just think they're going to win outright. Broncos money line all the way now. Yeah, Eagles are trash. Let's make it that's facts. Alrighty. And moving on over to the Houston at Baltimore game. This is a big one. Both teams need this win. Baltimore right now, like you said, +1.5. The over-under is 40.5. And Brent, do you think that the Ravens defense is going to be able to step up when they're needed most in case Lamar's out?
This is a hard one because this is something that I've been on from the jump, Luke. Week one, I told you the Texans are going to have a top five defense and a bottom five offense, and that has ridden true. The under is hit in every single game that they've been a part of, 4 for 4, and they have done kind of what I expected them to do. Now, I did think they'd win against Jacksonville, but I kind of figured they'd be at 2-2 at this point in the season, and looking about how they have. I just don't think that the Ravens are a team that can exploit their weaknesses. Now, I didn't expect the Titans to either, though, and it was 6-0 pretty much going into the fourth quarter. Like the Houston offense finally got cooking, but it wasn't until they had played for nearly 45 minutes. There was one play in the Texans Titans game, and I wish I had it, where the offensive line, the two guys on the right side, just run into each other, start blocking each other. The center and the left guard and the left tackle triple team one defensive lineman, and the other guy just shoots right up the A gap. And before Stroud can even hand the ball off, he's sacked for an 8-yard loss. It's just like that is the worst offensive line in the world. It's just comical how bad it is. And I feel bad for Stroud because it's easy to put the blame on him. And yeah, he's not playing great, but we've seen it with Mahomes in 2 Super Bowls. When you don't have an offensive line that's just completely overmatched, it takes a miracle to save yourself. And it's really that, but I don't know if the Ravens can exploit it. I think what the Ravens need to try to do is rely on Derrick Henry and run the ball against the Texans, who their strength defensively is their pass defense with great edge rushers and great players in the secondary. So they just should play smash mouth football and try to win this one 17-14. But I don't know if they're going to be able to do it because I really their defense. Looking at the guys that they have left on defense, it's like I don't recognize any of them. It's like Kyle Hamilton and 10 players that they showed up for training camp and they got to wear jerseys for training camp and now they're on the team. It's really sad. I mean, I think Houston wins this game, but I don't know if they're going to look impressive doing it. It might be another slugfest.
Absolutely. I think this is going to be one of Harbaugh's biggest coaching moments in his entire career. You're down 1-3. That's your record right now. You're going to be out your starting quarterback, most likely MVP, Hall of Fame quarterback, and uh, you need your defense to step up. They're completely injured. This is how you got to coach, set the culture, and really cement your legacy. Is all right. I'm not going to just let my team fall over to one of the worst offenses in the NFL. And I don't know if he's going to be able to do it though. Is the problem? I kind of like the Texans in this one. I don't think they're going to be able to step up. It looks like we got a good defense in the Texans, and we got without Lamar a bad offense with the Ravens and a bad defense with the Ravens, and a solid defense with the Houston. But their offense, if they can just start get going, I think they're going to be good to go. And they did show a little bit of juice in the fourth quarter last week. Their first quarter with actually knowing what they're doing. So yeah, give me the Texans in this one.
I loved how you led that off because you said it needs to be up to Harbaugh to do it. And as you were saying that, I was like, it does. But I have no faith that he will do it right. He's not impressed me this year or last year in big games, or even going back to the AFC Championship against the Chiefs. I think he's lost a fastball to a degree. I don't have any faith that he's going to be able to coach them to a victory when I've seen him get thoroughly outcoached by Andy Reid, Dan Campbell, and McDermott already this season. Yeah, give me the Texans in this one. 40 and a half. Will they're under hit for a fifth straight game? Probably. I think the
Take the
Houston
under.
Texans win this one like 2017.
Definitely could happen. Alrighty. And then moving over, Tampa Bay at Seattle. We got -3.5 for Seattle. And what I was wondering for this one, Brent, is which team do you think has a better chance to make a deep playoff run between these two?
Well, for me, the answer is Tampa Bay. I just trust more in their quarterback. I trust more in their head coach who has experience making playoff runs. And I trust in their full complement of weapons if they all get healthy. Mike Evans injured right now. Bucky Irving looks like he may not play this week, but they got Godwin back. Igbuka looks good, and I trust that Todd Bowles can get that defense playing well. I mean, they kept an NFL team from completing a pass for half a game. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So I have more faith in Tampa, but Seattle's looked really good so far, and I'm guessing that's your answer here.
Absolutely. I think Seattle is flying around, and Sam Darnold has everything he needs to be successful. The running game's going. They got the offensive line. It kind of brings me back to what you're saying about the Texans, where if Darnold was in Stroud's situation, he'd probably just be doing terrible, and everyone would say he's washed and he's never been good. But in the situation he's in right now with Seattle, they have the weapons around him they need. Number one receiver, and they're going to be able to do enough to win games with the secondary they're on their defense that is really stepping up and flying around the field, making it hard on all opposing offenses. That's the type of defense it's going to take to be able to win late. I don't know if the Buccaneers are going to be able to have that come January. So yeah, give me Seattle.
Seattle just gives me a little bit of pause. I think Darnold had a chance to win week one against the 49ers, and that was when they were healthier. So it would have been a really good win. Turns the ball over late in that game. 49ers also, their defense bailed out Brock Purdy, throws up an absolute horrid ball that got caught for a touchdown. I was on Seattle that game. Since then, I haven't been on Seattle. I did end up picking them against Arizona just because I had to go with my head. But I wasn't really impressed with them in that game. They got off to a nice start. Arizona gave them some gifts on some bad turnovers and just some really just lackadaisical play and classic Arizona basically play to give them a lead in that one. And then it looked like Seattle was stuck in the mud for the entirety of the second half until they got a gift with Arizona leaving the ball short of the landing zone. Darnold got him into field goal range, and they deserve the win. It's a good win. Anytime you win on the road in division, it's a good win, but it doesn't give me confidence going forward that I think Seattle ends up being a top tier team. I still think they're not the best team in their division, and with Tampa, I can't say that.
All right, well, they could be meeting up in the playoffs later too, maybe a 4-5 type of matchup. But yeah, who you got in this game too?
Well, I'm gonna save my pick for later on in the show on that. Who do you got in this one?
There you go. I think Seattle's going to be able to win, but it should be a good game. I don't think I'd touch the line -3.5. Maybe lean a little bit towards the Tampa Bay side. I think it'll be close for sure.
I got Tampa with the points for sure. Next, Luke, we've got Washington and the LA Chargers, and this has maybe the highest point total line, one of the highest of the week. 47 and a half. Chargers are only 2.5 point home favorites. Both teams suffered losses last week as favorites. So, which team do you expect to be able to bounce back this week, and will we see an offensive explosion?
I think it will be. This is one of the games I'm most excited for this weekend. The Chargers have shown that they want to throw the ball a lot, and this Washington Commanders secondary is where you want to do it. I'm excited to see all the weapons for the Chargers getting going. And then Jaden Daniels is making his return, and he's going to need to be able to put up points on the Chargers. They showed that, they're definitely vulnerable a little bit last week. Even though Dart didn't have a whole lot of yards, the rushing aspect of Dart's game really shined through. So if he can do it, can't Daniels, get sneaky and hopefully get some yards on if his knee's all right. So I think it'll be a great game. At the end of the day, it's going to be hard for Washington Commanders to be able to put up enough points to keep up with the Chargers, just because I don't think their secondary is nearly good enough to be able to start Herbert and those weapons just firing in, coming off that bounce back or looking for a bounce back win. So give me the Chargers in this one in a high scoring matchup. I'd give the Chargers 35 points, Washington 27.
I'm a little worried about the Chargers. Obviously, the Rashawn Slater injury was big at the start of the year. Now Joe Alt's got a high ankle sprain, and the offense did not move the ball against the Giants really after he went out of that game. He didn't really move it to begin with, to be fair. But I think that's big. Obviously, Harbaugh has thrown the ball a lot more than we anticipated to start this season. Now, is he going to have to continue to rely on throwing the ball in a short passing game where they kind of become a little bit more predictable? I think that's something that they were doing really well early on in the season, mixing up the depth of those throws. We've seen Quentin Johnston over the top. We've seen Keenan Allen in those intermediate areas. I don't know if they're going to be able to continue doing that with an offensive line that is going to be under pressure. Meanwhile, for Washington, I think it all comes down to who's Jane Daniels going to have out there. It's going to be great to have him back. Both Debo and McLaurin missed practice. They're going to need somebody behind him, especially with the run game. They don't have Eckler anymore, so the running back core is lackluster to say the least. And if they don't have any players and they're relying on Luke McCaffrey again to try to score for the third straight week, that's going to be tough, especially if it is going to be an offensive shootout, which it definitely could be. There's question marks for both of these teams. There's a reason why both teams lost last week when they were favored to win. I'd take the points with Washington. I think it comes down to a point or two either way. And, obviously I'll be rooting for Washington to win and get Kansas City back to even in the division.
Fair enough. Definitely give me the Chargers in that one. It is going to be tough not having Alt and Slater back there with those two guys. I mean, Herbert could sit back there all day. So it'll be interesting to see how they can make adjustments and make sure Herbert's getting the ball out quick and not taking too many sacks this week.
Well, Luke, next we've got the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills Sunday night. Top two teams in the AFC East. Bills 4-0, Patriots 2-2. The Bills are big favorites. 8.5 point favorites, and it's a high total here with 50.5. Is there any chance Drake May, who's had a really strong start to the season, can outplay Josh Allen and high mark?
I think it is, and it's going to be because Drake May has got his sidekick. He's got Stephon Diggs going back to Highmark, and he is absolutely ready to go. You know, Diggs is going to be fired up, and they've been having building this connection between Drake May and Stephon Diggs these past few weeks, and I feel like this is the perfect time to showcase it on Sunday night. Diggs going back to his old team where you know he's just yearning to have one of his career games. And I could see it happening. The Bills secondary hasn't really been tested too well, and they actually made Spencer Rattler look like an NFL quarterback last week to a certain extent. So Drake May is ready to go. It feels like their season. They've had some rocky spots where they're trying to build up to a good game, and I feel like they've been able to learn from that. Some of the struggles they've had these past few weeks, and they've been showing growth. They're ready to go this week. Everything, all cards on the table, division matchup. This is where they can really cement themselves is we're here and this is what the division is going to look like. It's not just going to be Bills running over the entire division like it has been previously. I think this is where the Patriots and Vrabel make an absolute stand.
I like what you're thinking on this one, Luke. Mike Vrabel, yeah, he's got some time now with the Patriots, get them boys fired up, doing what he wants to. I want to see them cut to Cardi B just like they cut to Taylor Swift normally at Highmark Stadium. That would really fire me up. So, absolutely, that Stephon Diggs, Drake May connection. They're actually the only two that have a better completion percentage, quarterback to wide receiver, than Jared Goff and Amon-Ra so far this season. And of course, our other combo, Puka and Stafford, are number three. Those are the best three in terms of completion percentage combinations in the NFL so far this season. So yeah, I like the Patriots to play this one close. Definitely give me 8.5 points. And I think there's a chance the Patriots could win this one. Buffalo, they're due for a loss. Could it be at home on prime time against New England? Unlikely, but not impossible.
And this is just going to be a great Sunday night game. Allen obviously has been playing well, but does he have the weapons that it takes to be able to get past this Patriots defense at a clip that he's been getting past the rest of these teams? Because the Patriots defense has been looking pretty solid too, and it's really going to come down to it here. I'm so excited for this game.
I am too. Neither team has that like superstar weapon. Obviously, Diggs is a big revenge game for him. He's lost a step though. He's not that elite wide receiver he used to be, but he's still probably better than anybody Buffalo has in terms of that receiving core where Allen's having to spread it around and it's been a lot of James Cook and James Cook has delivered, no doubt about that. He looks incredible, but the Patriots defense has been doing good against the run. It could be tough sledding and Buffalo might not have it as easy as they've grown accustomed to through the first 4 weeks. I definitely like New England in this one, at least with the points. And of course, would love to see the upset.
Yeah, maybe sprinkle a little money line in there. All righty, and moving over to Monday Night Football, Kansas City Chiefs are going to Jacksonville and -3.5 for the Chiefs. And Brent, we've been seeing Mahomes having to take over these games and putting up numbers like he did in the previous seasons before the last couple where his numbers were down. Are we going to continue to see vintage Mahomes in this matchup?
Well, if you're expecting vintage Mahomes to be the four touchdown passes, I'm going to say probably not. That four touchdown passes, that was his first time he's done that since October of 2023. That was back against the Chargers the year before when they were still on their hunt to repeat as Super Bowl champions. I was at that game, just like I was at the game last week against the Baltimore Ravens, and I won't be in Jacksonville. So the last two times Mahomes has thrown for four touchdown passes, I've been there. I'm not going to be there, so I don't expect that to happen. And the Jaguars have had a sneaky good defense so far this season. They have really been doing it though with turnovers. They forced a bunch of turnovers against the Niners. Brock Purdy got the ball, put it in harm's way. They were able to turn over the Texans, and we know what the Texans offense is. They just can't move the ball. So that one's kind of a gift. And then they knocked out Joe Burrow. Browning went turnover mode as well. So Jacksonville in week one was Bryce Young when you were still on the Panthers. We all know that's a disaster. So the Jaguars have been getting turnovers. I don't know that their defense is actually that solid, but I think that the Chiefs know that. If they take care of the ball, they'll win the game. It'll probably be a lot more of the shorter, intermediate stuff. They get the ball quickly out to Xavier Worthy. We'll still see a couple shots over the top to Thornton and Worthy, but I think it's going to be more in front and just move the ball down the field a little bit more methodically than we saw last week. I think the Chiefs are able to ball control win this game, but I don't expect it to be a shootout by any means. I think the Chiefs are in the mid 20s and they win by a score or two against Jacksonville.
Absolutely. I'm there with you, Brent. I think the Chiefs can get this one done pretty handily. Trevor Lawrence has not looked like that good of a quarterback. Looks like he might have been trying to lose that game last week against the 49ers, but Purdy wanted to lose it even more with the terrible interceptions he was throwing. So yeah, I think the Chiefs defense will be able to stop Jacksonville pretty handily in this one. And my favorite one is definitely the minus 46 and a half, under 46 and a half for this game. I think it'll be a low scoring battle on Monday night, but the Chiefs will be able to get it done.
Yeah, I kind of like that the Chiefs are playing the Jags after the Jags pulled off the upset against the Niners because Jacksonville's like, we're 3-1, tied for first in the division. We're playing against the best team in the AFC. I mean, it would be nice if we win, but we'll be all right if we lose too. So I think I'm intrigued to see what how Jacksonville employs Travis Hunter in this game. They've been doing all sorts of things with him. Early on, he was offense. Before last week, he was mostly defense. Now this week, he was kind of a little bit offense and hardly any defense. It seems like they don't really have a plan for him, which is odd because, we both were excited about it. They trade up for him in the number two pick. Now, I'll be curious to see what they do with him this week against Kansas City.
It seems like at this point, what they should do is just make him like a full time wide receiver just for the time being. Maybe on in practice, get him snaps on the defensive side of the ball, but just make sure he can focus and actually be on one side of the ball for now until he develops a little bit more as far as his understanding of the game goes, and then try to get him worked in on defense once he has already established himself as a solid player in the league. It's definitely going to be hard to do that all at the same time, all in just his rookie year while you're, flipping how many snaps you're getting on each side of the ball. Just seems like a little janky over there.
I agree. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars, the record's nice, but they have some flaws underneath that, and Kansas City most likely will expose them. Well, Luke, now it's time for our favorite bets of the week. Last week, we were awesome. We both hit our lock of the week. Patriots blew them out. Texans blew them out. Both hit our prop, Adunze yards. Micah Parsons, a sack against the Cowboys. About the only defensive play the Packers did all game long. But you and your terrible upset picks, first with the Panthers, now the Jets. Can you pick a team that has any sort of semblance of continuity? Jets, bad pick. My pick, of course, hit. It's been on the doorstep the last 2 weeks. Finally, the Falcons get it done, beating Washington and really never really having to sweat that one out. So 5 for 6, Luke, on our picks last week. Who do you like this week?
This week, I'm going with those Denver Broncos against the Eagles. I teased it a little bit earlier, but I do think the Denver Broncos are going to be able to get this one done. I think their offense is good enough to where they can expose the Eagles. And like I said, the Eagles are going to start to fall apart a little bit. Definitely Broncos in this one.
My upset of the week is also a game we already talked about. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Sam Darnold Pumpkiners. up there in the Northwest. Darnold is just not as good as Baker. Baker is going to get it done. I like Tampa Bay a lot more than I think Seattle. Bucks are just a better team. We've got Baker Mayfield. He's going to be wanting to get back for a win after losing to the Eagles in a close game. And Godwin got 10 targets last week. That connection's going to grow. Egbuka still looks sharp. Bucky, we'll see if he plays or not. Either way, I think it's good. They're going to be all right because the defense is pretty solid, and I think Seattle is going to struggle against a real team this week.
Fair enough, but give me the Seahawks on that one. For my lock of the week, I'm going with the Detroit Lions. Hopping on over there down to Cincinnati, a team that maybe shouldn't even be in the NFL. I mean, they are completely unwatchable. I mean, this game's going to be over, and probably midway through the second quarter, the Lions will be able to score at will on this team. Their defensive line is not going to be able to stop anything that Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery have for them. So I'm honestly a little bit scared for our players. Maybe we'll only be able to play 20 minutes, and then they're all just going to get sent to the bench. I don't know what's going to happen because we're going to be winning by about 30 points. I can't believe the line's only minus 10 and a half. You gave the Bills last week, what, 14 points against the
16.
Saints? So, yeah, 16 points, and now we're going against the Bengals, who ever since Joe Burrow went down show they can't play any offense, and we already knew they don't have a defense. So Lions slam minus 10 and a half. Tease it up as much as you want because we're winning this by at least 20. Lions love blowing teams like this out.
Yeah, that's my favorite pick of the week is just Detroit minus 10 and a half. They're in Cincinnati. That's the only thing that makes any sense because the last two games the Bengals have played have been the two worst games by any NFL team this season. They got just destroyed against the Vikings and destroyed run up and down the field against the Broncos. You're absolutely right. We talked about the Bengals as they're currently constructed. I feel bad for no Joe Burrow. If I like watching Jamar Chase and T. Higgins catch the ball whenever they're not playing Kansas City, and they're not able to do it. Their offensive line is atrocious. Their defense is horrendous. I don't even know if you mentioned they shouldn't be in the NFL. I don't even know if they're a top two team in their own state. Like,
Probably not.
like would they even make the Big Ten championship game? I don't know. There's a lot of good Big Ten teams in their current state without Joe Burrow. They are very, very bad. As the resident Lions fan, I conceded the lock pick to you, so I had to dig a little bit deeper for my lock pick. Here's what I'm thinking, Luke. The this team, they get to play in the same time zone that they did last week. They're playing against an opponent who's playing in a time zone, five time zones across the world with a rookie quarterback that's never made a start before. Both teams have about the same level of defense, but one team it doesn't have a starting rookie quarterback and they've got great coaching. Give me the Minnesota Vikings against the Cleveland Browns. Vikings obviously did not step it up in their first game in Europe. Now they go to London from Dublin, and the Browns, they're in trouble, having to ship all the way across the country, across the world. It's hard to do. Meanwhile, the Vikings are already there, kind of gotten it figured out. I think the logistically it sets up really well for Minnesota. There's only been one time in the history of international NFL games where a team has played back-to-back games in Europe, and it was 2023. It was the Jacksonville Jaguars. They won their first game. Then they played again. They played against the Bills and Josh Allen and beat the Bills. Staying over there, I think that gives them a big advantage. I like the Vikings against Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah. The Vikings probably will win this one, but I think that there might be more defensive points than offensive points in this game. Last week we saw the Steelers versus Vikings. That offensive line, once their I think it was their tackle went out or their guard, they were completely terrible and just getting beat on every single snap. Wentz had absolutely no time to throw the ball. And you know who doesn't care about time zones is that boy Miles Garrett. He's
That's
going to
true.
absolutely break through that Vikings line every single time. So there's a legitimate chance there will be more defensive points off turnovers, just taking them to the house, than these offenses have any semblance of getting down the field.
I'm hoping that Carson Wentz, he eventually in the fourth quarter, they had to try to play some catch up. He did get it rolling a little bit. I'm hoping that that will be able to jumpstart them against the Browns. They're only 3.5 point favorites, but there's no other team. This is a tough week for a lock. The Colts, I like the Colts against the Raiders, but I'm still not completely bought in on the Colts. So I'm taking the Vikings, and just more of the factors of the game, I think, lead to them. Rookie quarterback that's having to go across the world. It was one thing with Jackson Dart, who was a first round quarterback playing at home. It's a different thing when you're a third round quarterback and you're going across the world. I'll take the Vikings in that. Luke, what's your prop of the week? You are 4 for 4 on player props. Can he go 5 for 5?
Yep. And this week I'm going with Marvin Harrison Jr. going up against the Titans. This team loves getting torched by anyone, especially wide receivers. And in this game, the Arizona Cardinals, they're out James Conner, they're out Trey Benson. They're going to have to throw the ball to be able to put up the points they want to against the Tennessee Titans. And they're going to be looking for Harrison. This is the perfect game to get him going. We saw him have some real struggles at the start of the year, but that fourth quarter that he had against the um, against the Seahawks last week was huge for him, and they're going to try to build off that in this game. Right now, they got his line at over 50.5, and I'm taking that all day. Marvin Harrison's going to get going in this one early and often.
I like that a lot. It's kind of that thing. Use that momentum from the fourth quarter. You saw the emotion, just relief, really, once he caught that touchdown pass, came back, made another good catch on the next drive that tied the game up. Yeah, I see that, especially against the Titans team. And Cam Ward said it best. They're ass. So
Exactly.
I'll take Harrison. I'll trust you to be 5 for 5. And my prop is Ramondre Stevenson rushing yards against the Bills. I saw what Kendre Miller and Alvin Kamara were able to do last week in a game in which the Saints were playing from behind. I'm not sure the Patriots are going to be playing from behind. I think it could be a very even, neutral game script. Stevenson only 32.5 yards. He's still gotten the majority of the carries. Travion Henderson's going to mix in, and I want to see Travion Henderson mix in. He brings that explosiveness, but Stevenson is just a hard runner, and the Bills, I don't think, are that physical. I don't think that they have the size and the talent defensively to be able to stonewall Stevenson. 32.5, that's not many yards. I could see him getting there by halftime. It looks like a juicy prop to me.
I like that one too, Brent. Stevenson's going to be getting the ball, and they're going to need to get to him. Bills are susceptible. I like it.
Now, Luke, take a big drink because you're going to need to knock down 12 of them. It is time for Luke's 12 pack. Last week, I had the Eagles on top of my 12 pack. Luke, 2 weeks ago, you had the Bills on top of your 12 pack. And those are now the two only undefeated teams left in the NFL. Will we see one of those at the top or somebody else? Run down your power rankings of the 12 best teams in the NFL going into week 5.
Yes, sir. I got you, Brent. So going into this week, I got at number 12, the Denver Broncos. They're a solid team, and I'm excited to see what they can do this week. Obviously, my upset pick against the Eagles. But, slow start to the year. They're starting to get it together. Number 11, I got my Steelers. I like what I'm seeing out of Aaron Rodgers, and I think that they can keep it going, keep that defense rolling, and they'll be moving up this 12 pack in no time. Number 10, got to keep the Bucs on there. Terrible first half. Tried to bring it back against the Eagles last week. And Baker Mayfield's a good player, but barely scraping into the top 10 right now. Really a fringe team. Just ahead of them, another fringe team that's going up against them this week. Seattle Seahawks at number 9. I like what I'm seeing out of Sam Darnold, and that defense is going to be ready to win this week against the Bucs. Solidify them as a top 10 team for now. At number 8, my boys, the Indianapolis Colts. I hated on them earlier in the year, but they deserve to be up here in the top quarter of the league. Give me the Indianapolis Colts. I love what I'm seeing out of there with Daniel Jones and the rest of that team. And then finally, wrapping up the first 6 of the 12 pack, give me the Los Angeles Chargers. Justin Herbert is a good player. Little shaky last week, but still leading that division as it stands right now in the AFC West. So you got to put him up there as right around a contender in the AFC.
Interesting, Luke. I I like it a lot. I think maybe you could have added another NFC contender over the Steelers or the Broncos. 49ers, they're banged up. They're 3-1 though. The Falcons, they got a big win. I could see them making the list, or Washington now once Jaden Daniels comes back. Some options maybe there. Bucks should be ahead of the Seahawks. I think we are going to see that come to fruition by Sunday afternoon. But overall, good start to the 12 pack. Luke, this is the where you normally let it down is as we get towards the end and the drinks stay out of the fridge a little too long and they get sour. So hopefully you got it together here in the final six.
Well, Brent, as far as the Falcons go, as much as I love the Panthers, 2 short weeks ago, you get shut out and lose by 30 to those guys. Sorry, your 12 pack exempt for at least my next one. That's for sure.
Fair enough.
Then moving over to the top six. At number six, I got the Packers coming off the tie. Still a really solid team. They'll be able to bring it back. It's not going to be they're not going to be playing like this the rest of the year. They did these past 2 weeks, and so I'm not really too worried about them being able to bring it back. Obviously, I'd love to see it fall off, but it's not going to be that easy to get rid of that team. They're a really solid top six team. And then coming in next, the Kansas City Chiefs. The way that their offense has been playing with Patrick Mahomes, I feel like number five is a good spot for them right now. They're starting to bounce back. I love seeing Mahomes get back to what he was doing. You know, a great player, really putting it to the Baltimore Ravens last week. But is Xavier Worthy really just going to be, 1 week where now people see it and they're like, all right, Worthy's back. We can figure out a way to stop it. Or is that one player really going to transform this offense into something that we did not see at all for those first 3 weeks? The Chiefs maybe could have won. They could be undefeated right now if Worthy doesn't run straight into Travis Kelsey or Kelsey run into Worthy. Certainly could be 4-0. So I think five's a solid spot for them. Just ahead of that, though, is the Los Angeles Rams. I think they have the best wide receiver duo in the league. And with a quarterback like Matthew Stafford, you can't count them out of anything. Great young defense there, too. But just ahead of them is the Detroit Lions, the team that's going to own the Rams anytime they play them because Detroit Lions got that grit in their heart. Most dynamic offense in the league, best running back duo in the league by far, and the offensive line is stepping up big time these past few weeks. Anyone that faces up against the Lions is going to have a rough time that week and the week after. That's how you know just how physical and a great team they are. Defense really stepping up too. Aiden Hutchinson, Defensive Player of the Year. Give me it. And then number two, I'm going with the Eagles. Obviously, number one, the Buffalo Bills. I got it squared away again. I can't put the Eagles at number one. I have two eyeballs, and I'm going to use them and be able to diagnose that the Eagles. I'm not going to have them below top two. They are undefeated. I can't put anyone ahead of them except for the Buffalo Bills, who have looked like the best team so far this year.
So you're telling me, I know you had the Bills at number one after 2 weeks, but you're telling me that in the last 2 weeks, you're more impressed with the Bills sneaking out home wins over the Dolphins and the Saints than you are with the Eagles getting victories over actual contenders in the Rams and the Buccaneers?
The Eagles were two special teams plays away from losing both of those games. The Bills easily were going to win
The
both of
Bills,
those
the
games.
Bills were one stupid Tua throw and one stupid Chris Olave throw away from possibly losing both those games too. Let's not act like they had them in the bag.
I mean, they were going to win those games. I was not worried about it. James Cook is looking like a great running back right now. And I'm excited to see the Bills get tested, but until they do, the way that they've been winning these games, I feel like they got to be number one. They've looked like the best team.
It's not near one of your worst 12 packs, I'll tell you that. Overall, a good list. I think I'm honestly even happy where you have the Chiefs, and I really just think the Bills do not belong at number one. Philadelphia would be my pick there. Overall, well done though, Luke. I can definitely cheers you on that 12 pack.
I love to hear it, Brent.
Well, Luke, we've got week 5 football coming up this weekend. It's going to be great. The Kansas City Chiefs on Monday night. Two undefeated teams, the Bills and the Eagles, still left hanging on. Who will be at the top of the 12 pack next week? Could be anybody. Luke, enjoy week 5 football.
This is going to be great. I can't wait to see it. And go Lions.
Lions are going to roll against the Bengals. Chiefs on Monday night. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Hesse Bros Pod. Please like and subscribe on whatever platform you are watching on. And we'll see you next week for some more football.